Now let's talk about early ice and let's talk about safety. You know, a lot of ice anglers, they're excited to get out on the ice, and sometimes I think maybe people push it. They take too many chances, and no fish is worth your life. You can't stress safety enough, and so we're going to go over just some guidelines, some principles to follow when you're walking out on early ice, then a checklist of safety items that you should have on you when you're out on early ice, because the whole goal is to do things where you don't fall through the ice. If heaven forbid something were to happen, you have the safety equipment to possibly save your life. And so basically, as a rule of thumb, people recommend having at least 3 inches to walk on. But here's the thing. When you're dealing with 3 inches of ice, there's no room to compromise. There's no room for error, okay? In the sense that you might have an area where maybe the muskrats are swimming back and forth underneath the ice, and you might step into an area where there's an inch of ice. Or maybe there were some geese that were sitting on the lake and they kept a pocket open, and it froze over, 3 or 4 days later than the ice that you're walking on. So it's easy to go from 3 inches to 1 inch or less. And so there's not a lot of room for error. And so when it comes to ice safety, yeah, 3 inches is what you need to walk on. But again, you can't take any chances. And don't just assume, if you see people out on the lake and they're fishing, don't just walk out to them, assume that it's safe just because they're out there. Make sure that you always check your own ice. That's very important. Check your own ice. Now, the most important thing to have is a spud bar, okay? Now you see here what I did is this here, you hit the ice with it where basically you're walking and you hit the ice, and basically with a good hard whack with this particular spud bar, if it's less than 2 inches, you're going to see water come up through the crack in the ice that you make with the spud bar. What I do is I just tape 3 inches from the edge of the spud bar blade up the shaft. That way when I do punch a hole through the ice, I can catch the edge of the ice with that blade and I can see how thick the ice is. So just a quick, easy, fast way to measure the ice. And so definitely mark your spud bar. They'll make it a lot easier as far as checking the ice. And basically you check the ice as you walk. You just give it a hard whack ahead of you, and you can just pick your way out on the ice, pick your path, and you can do it safely. The other thing to consider when you're out on early ice, especially, sometimes there's no snow on the ice, make sure you have ice cleats. Okay, these are just some corker boots here where they got some pretty aggressive cleats built right into the sole of the boot. You can also get cleats that flip over any style of boot, but make sure you have ice cleats, because here's the deal. If you do everything else safely, the reality is you're probably more likely to get hurt by slipping on the ice. And people get hurt really bad slipping and falling on the ice. And so make sure you have ice cleats. The other thing, make sure you have ice picks. These just go right around your neck. You just pull these apart and use them to help pull yourself out of the ice. If you don't have ice picks, even if you just put a screwdriver in your pocket, just something to help you pull yourself out of the ice. Now, chances are when you're walking out on the ice, you got to get your gear out on the ice, in which, if you're the one packing it or hauling it, I guarantee you're going to use the least amount of gear that you can get away with. And so a lot of times less is more in early ice. But one thing I like to do with my sled or with my fish trap is use a really long rope, okay? These sleds, they come with a short rope, go extra long. So what I do is I just put eye bolts in my sled or in my fish trap, and I just put these ropes on a clasp. That way you can unhook them. That way you've got a long rope to use if you ever have to help somebody if you're out on the ice. And so easier to drag and haul your gear, and also it's also used as a safety item, worst case scenario. Besides that, a lot of the suits that are available now, the ice fishing suits, they have flotation, and so definitely if you can, use a float suit when you're out on the ice, or at least have a throwable life jacket in your sled or fish house, as far as helping somebody. But most of all, use common sense. Stay away from anywhere where there's current, any type of a bottlenecked area, any type of a culvert, any type of a gap where there's water getting pushed back and forth between islands or a narrow restricted area. You're going to have bad ice. So when you're walking out on early ice, that's the basic checklist, okay, that you should have for that type of fishing. Spud bar, ice cleats, long throwable rope, some type of flotation, or at least the very minimum of throw cushion, ice picks, or something to use to pull yourself out of the ice, okay? But most of all, bring common sense. Don't compromise. Don't ever go out on ice that's less than 3 inches. Make sure that it's firm, hard ice, and, prioritize safety, because again, this isn't a contest who can get out on early ice first. What the contest is who can find the most enjoyment out of life, okay? And if you can get out there and fish several days and do so safely, that is where the fun is at, okay? And so don't push the limits.